For the next 2 days, we're going to talk about this intersection, the intersection of care and artificial intelligence. And we're going to put it together in an operating system that we call the intelligent practice. The intelligent practice is a strategy that requires that you step into a new state of leadership, that you have an understanding and a belief and a respect for the power that AI-driven tools can give your business in terms of handing you back your time and handing you efficiency. And it is the requirement for the leadership skills that are going to enable you to chart a course for your business or for your team through this period of time. So I'm going to take you through that. I want to give you the landscape of what the intelligent practice is all about. And because you're like, I know this part is hard and we're like sitting in it. This is the most didactic part of our entire time together. Of course, we're going to give you like an amazing gift on the backside. We're going to share something massive that we have been working on. I also just want to invite you to just take like a quick second to just like stand up for a second, like shake it off. I said to my team before this, I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking, planning like 2 hours of talking straight. So just everyone just like shake for a second, just like do what you need to do. This image right up here, this is your dashboard for Impact Lives. I want to give you a hot second here. I want you to know what's on this dashboard. So if you need access to anything, and I'm going to share one key piece in particular, this is what it looks like. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to listen to these things again, and I'm just a Zoomer, you have to upgrade to VIP. You can do that right from your dashboard. If I mention a tool that you can use, and I'm going to as we get into the landscape of the intelligent practice, you can go download it here. Our amazing sponsors have given you guys some incredible digital swag, like incredible. You're going to be able to find it here. So I really encourage you to come and hang out on the dashboard to get a sense of what is sitting there for you. There are so many resources that we have made available. It's actually shocking. When we were having a team meeting a few weeks ago and we were going through all of them, I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot. So it's all available on your dashboard. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the landscape of the intelligent practice. What does this actually mean? What does it entail? So when we start to talk about this, we actually need to confront some challenges. And this actually pulls from the beginning piece that we were talking about. When we look at our data, when we start to look at chiropractic medicine, functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, if I don't name your exact credentials, but you are practicing some element of integrative care, I am talking to you. Drop the type of medicine you practice in your chat so that I can like make sure that I include these things. If you're a naturopath, put naturopathic doctor. If you're a chiropractor, put chiropractor. If you're a nutritionist, put nutritionist. Just so like I get a sense. Okay, great. This is really helpful to know. So here's what we know. When we start to look at data, before practitioners have any type of transformational programming in their practice, on average, patients are sticking around for 4 visits. Now, in my next talk that we give today, I'm going to get into what that means from a math perspective. But right now, the challenge with this means that we're not actually receiving enough in terms of income to compensate for the time and money it takes to acquire patients into our practice. So if you feel like I do a lot of work and I have patients coming in and I start to work, I'm working all the time, but I don't feel my bank account going up, it's probably tied to this data. And the reason that this is taking place inside people's practices is because they are deploying care in alignment with the transactional model. What do I mean by transactional model? I mean the model of care most of us were taught in school, the model of care that actually permeates our entire healthcare system as it should. You cut your arm or you get a dog bite on your arm and you go into emerge, you need antibiotics and you need stitches and you maybe need to follow up with some sort of plastic surgeon or some hand clinic, but through a series of 3 or 4 transactions, your body will heal and we are good to go. You don't need a transformational experience to deal with your dog bite. You need a series of transactions with the traditional system. The challenge for us is that we have borrowed from that model of care as we have attempted to deploy a transformational experience for our patients. I remember when I was learning naturopathic medicine and they were talking about our intake, they're like, just so you know, the naturopathic intake is the most magical thing that's ever going to happen to a patient. They're going to get to spend an hour and a half with you and share all of their life secrets and you're going to change their life. And that is exactly what happens. And it is magical, but it's not step 1 in a series of transactions. And so what's happened is that we've completely ignored the model and nuance of how we delivered care. We just kind of copied that transactional piece. And if you've hung out in my world before, you have heard this, but the layer and lens that we're going to apply upon it is an era where online programs aren't doing what they used to do the same way. A group program is harder to get people to opt into. So there's a different type of context with the strategy stance. So we have this little paddle racket off to, I don't know if it's your right or your left, because that to me is like the best imagery of transaction. The ball goes back and forth, the ball goes back and forth until it doesn't need to anymore. But what we're talking about when we talk about the intelligent practice, if we were to lay it on a map, is not that kind of care. So if you have a primary care clinic, I'm not talking to you right now. I may be talking about what you can offer once that patient's like, wait a second, how do I actually deal with this heart disease other than medication? Because that patient who's made that declaration, that patient who's interested in something more, has stepped over that fluorescent yellow line. That line is called the line of fine. There's literally a line right here in this room that I'm tempted to step over, but I know I'll get in trouble, so I will not. But if we were to call it the line of fine, it's the same thing. And what happens is millions of people are dumped in the line of fine every single day. They left their doctor's office and they're like, I know you're really tired and you're really hot, but honestly, your blood work, it looks fine. Off you go. And people want something more. And they want something more, and they don't want a series of 1 to 4 transactions and a piece of paper with all the food that they can't list. They want to go see somebody. They want their health changed forever. They want to know how to live a new type of lifestyle. They want real wins. They want an outcome they don't come back from. They don't want to lose the weight and gain it back again. They want a true transformation. And the true transformation is what happens on the other side of that line of fine. And we're going to get into today, how do we design a transformational program? But I want you to understand first and foremost where we are sitting in the context of this conversation. Because when we transition to delivering transformation, a magical thing happens. Our patients go from seeing us on average 4 visits to seeing us on average for 12 visits. What happens to the health of a patient who has an opportunity to interact with you 12 times instead of 4? We get way better outcomes. They tell their friends, you changed their life. You are their biggest hero. What happens economically in your practice when a patient sticks around for 12 visits instead of 4? We increase what's called the lifetime value of that patient. If it consistently costs you $150 to acquire a new patient, would you like to have the patient who comes for 4 visits? Or do you want the patient who sticks around for 12? Because we're delivering genuine transformation. So not only do we get better patient outcomes, but we see entirely different economics within our practice. So when we talk about transformational care, the one-on-one context for transformational care happens in this bottom corner here. We call it strategic transformation. But when we talk about the ecosystem of the intelligent practice, hang tight. When we know what the transformational process is and who we deliver it for, it starts to enable us to understand what happens in this top quadrant here. We now know what to market. We now know what our message needs to be. And when we move from that findable quadrant, what happens next is we've got patients who go, oh my gosh, I saw this post by Dr. Walker. She's talking about autoimmune conditions. And that's all she talks about. And she speaks about it with a level of authority. And she's a little bit fun. And she shows up consistently. And she linked to her blog. And I read her blog. And it was like really interesting. And she's running a boot camp next week on how to balance your blood sugar. Because who knew if my blood sugar's all over the now I'm just making up medicine, by the way. If my blood sugar's all over the place, I can't effectively manage my autoimmune condition. I'm going to sign up for it. They opted in. They're like, oh, it's Dr. Walker person. She sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Am I going to change their life with that quick opt-in? No. Am I going to further engender confidence in myself and in their own ability to follow through on some element of their health? 100% I am. And when I have that little quick win with them, I'll say to them, for some of you, that totally just changed your life. And for others, we're like, wait a second, this is amazing. No one's ever made me feel like this. Like, how do I work with you? And then they come down here into this strategic transformation, not for 4 visits, but because you're like, you have an autoimmune condition, here's where we're going to go. We're going to go from here to here. My goal in working with patients is that you never see these symptoms again. We can't do that in 4 visits, but we can do that over the course of the next 6 months. And then what happens when we work for 6 months together and finally a patient doesn't have any symptoms? Just so you know, you're their biggest hero in life. What was I taught to do in school? Let them know they can come back in a year for a physical, or they can give me a ring anytime they're not feeling well. That means they went back. I now have somebody who literally thinks that I'm their hero, who finally has reverence for their own health, who feels empowered to actually take steps moving forward in terms of controlling their health. I just sent them away. No, now is where I'm actually going to introduce the group program and the community so they can hang out with like-minded people. Because I don't know about you, but when I changed my health, when I changed my life, I didn't just like stop going to the gym and go back to eating the way I ate before and managing the stress the way I ate before. No, I wanted to surround myself with people who had the same values as me. So now we're creating a transformational ecosystem. This not only drives more revenue inside your business, it delivers better outcome for your ideal patients. So here's how I am defining this idea of the intelligent practice. And I wanted to write it down so we're all on the same page. And I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to read it. But I want you guys to know what it is we're talking about. The intelligent practice is a high leverage model for modern healthcare where transformation meets technology and impact meets intention. The intelligent practice integrates AI, systems, and strategy to hand clinicians back their time, elevate their leadership, and amplify their reach. It's grounded in transformation, which is why we opened there. And it turns your clinical expertise into a scalable, profitable, and sustainable enterprise. One that works for you, for your patients, and your purpose. I want you to create your own Monday morning. I want you to create your version of the intelligent practice. This is what it looks like. I call this the intelligent practice operating system. There's 3 core areas. I'm going to introduce you to all of them over the course of the next day. There is your methodology. This is your system of care. We call it a signature care system. There's how you market. There's 3 phases to that. We're going to get into that later this morning. And then there's what I call mechanics and multipliers. This is where we add true leverage. This is where we start to leverage your time. I'm going to take you through what each of these different pieces mean and why they matter. Because I want you to have your time back. I want you to transform more people's lives. I'm going to take you through some of our goals that we set 4 or 5 years ago at an earlier impact, where we talked about wanting to reach 30 million people by 2030. What AI is going to enable us to do, it's going to enable us to reach 100 million. What AI is going to enable you to do in your practice, it's going to enable you to hand back your time. It's going to enable you to innovate your offer so you can reach more people, not just the people who can pay this price, but for the people who might experience it differently because they aren't educated on it the same way or they don't have the funds the same way. So when we start to understand the ecosystem, once we start to understand what we call those quadrants of care, what you start to see is there's not one way of doing it. But when we stick to the strategy, it does not matter what's changing around us. When I talk about the intelligent practice, I'm not talking about the sports car, by the way. The sports car, just so you know, is your education. It's the fancy part that costs a lot of money. But the education is not relevant if we don't have this, the engine. Now, just my luck, this is a photo of like a Kia, and I'm trying to pair it with the Porsche. But I want you to understand the key part here is these two have to work together. There is literally not a world moving forward where you can focus solely on the aerodynamics of your car and polishing your car over and over and over again, more and more and more CE, more and more credentials, where we actually ignore the engine. And I would argue if this is a Kia engine, it will also be insufficient for where we are going. You need a business that matches the level of sophistication of your education. The individuals in this room are the most educated top 1% of individuals in a $1 trillion global industry. And I promise you, you are not earning in alignment with that. We have to focus on this. with equal reverence for the aerodynamics of the vehicle. So let's talk about the marketing side of the intelligent practice, because this is an area I want to focus on. And I told you guys, I'm like, I got a little present for you. I got something kicking around. And it's in alignment with this. Because when we look back at the current state of affairs, and we look at the state of the industry, I kind of feel like the marketing one is where we've actually experienced a really strong shift. There's some good news in there and there's some bad news in there. But if I were you sitting out there, I'd be like, Megan, how the heck are people going to find me? What do I need to be doing? How am I going to get new patients in my door? Those are really important questions to be asking. Let's talk about it. So when we're discussing the intelligent practice and we're looking at the marketing projects, I call these all projects within this operating system, there's 3 core areas we need to look at. We have authority content. This is how we position ourselves online. This is the SEO behind your name. This is having that Google profile. This is being part of a high quality directory, which manages SEO in a far more sophisticated manner than we can do on our own. We have what we call an automated education system. What could that be? It could be something like an evergreen webinar. These all serve different purposes. I'm going to take you through them. And lastly, we have to nurture our clients. These are 3 areas. There's not one more important than the other. It's like a patient saying to you, I'm only going to take one supplement, not all of them. Like if you could just pick one, which would it be? There's not one that's more important than the other. Let me show you why. So yes, we need to be findable online. And yes, our website needs to look professional. And yes, we should have a strong brand. And yes, we need to produce authority content. And that means a website, and that means your social channel, and that means being on a directory, and that means having your Google profile up to date. And I want to be really clear, what does that 2 to 5% refer to? It refers to how many patients are going to directly refer into your business as a result of those actions. That's a very low number. If you're sitting there and you're like, Megan, this is a lot of work and a lot of money for 2 to 5% of people, I'm not going to do it. That's a fair assessment. Here's the thing you need to know about marketing. Marketing is not about doing things at what we call the top of the funnel, expecting everyone to take a level 10 action right away. When we talk about having authority and being findable online, when we talk about any marketing activity, frankly, all we are actually expecting people to do is to take the next step. Not level 10, which is book an appointment with you, but level 2, which is to step into your ecosystem, to step into your world. What is the highest honor someone can bestow upon you in the online space? They can say, you seem cool, you seem like you have authority, let me give you my email address. Having access to someone's email address remains gold. So when we talk about having an evergreen webinar or a live webinar or some kind of training people opt into, like heck, Impact Lives is that. You all opted in to be here today. Why do we do this? It's not so that we can say, okay, come book an appointment. I'm not saying that to you right now. The reason that you have your evergreen webinar or your live webinar or your boot camp or your event or your lead magnet, but lead magnets where they can see you and hear you speak work better, is because we shrink the sales cycle. We know that consumers need multiple touch points before they're like, yeah, this is somebody I'd want to work with. If you're talking to someone for 2 hours, guess what? We're like really getting to know each other. I'm like literally coughing in your ear. This is a very intimate live event. We're shortening the sales cycle. When I started as a naturopathic doctor, I gave talks everywhere. And we were very clear on how long our sales cycle was. I was like the running room and the health food store and the law firm and the blah, 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 blah. And when we did nothing else, when we just put our postcard out, when I would just show up one time, our sales cycle on average was 18 months. An 18-month sales cycle in this climate will tank your business. You can't afford for someone to have one interaction with you and sit around for 18 months. No, we need to be intentional around how we build trust faster, which is why a tool where we're training people where they can see us, where we're smiling, where they're hearing our intonation, where they're like, I think I can trust this person. This is really important. Not necessarily so they're putting their hand up, because only 8 to 12% of people will, but it's way better than the social media post. But because we want them to move into our next step. What's our next step? Now we just want them to be available to be nurtured to. We want to be able to email them. We want to be able to carry on the conversation. This is a weekly email. This is where consistency matters. This is where you provide unique insight, not your grandma's recipe on replay. Your nurture strategy is where 60 to 80% of your clients are going to come from. This is why when we start to look at all of these pieces together, this element really matters. So I want you guys to know that when it comes to the intelligent practice, there are going to be areas where when you take action, there's going to be some steps that will move your business further, faster. So having a signature care system, which we're going to get into next, is a cornerstone piece of your intelligent practice. Having an automated education system, having that webinar, having a way to train them, is going to become a cornerstone piece of your practice. And having a money strategy, oh my God, aligns with your authority is going to be an instrumental part of your practice. Because here's where we're going. Here are the numbers that we're trying to bring forth. I want you, if you're a solo practitioner, to be having a revenue in your business, an income in your life, and a capacity in your practice that is driving you closer to freedom. If you are a solo practitioner or you are an associate, I want you to know that the first order of business in your business is to drive demand. Place that we're looking to focus. There's 3 milestones that we're going to want to hit inside your intelligent practice framework. The first milestone you need to hit before you're like, I have to hire this whole team and I have to have all these systems and I have to have all this stuff. The first thing you've got to have inside your business is you have to have demand. You have to have demand. You can't do anything else if you don't have demand because you can't afford to. So demand is the first critical piece as we move towards freedom. The second step that we're going to look for inside the intelligent practice is we need to add leverage. Leverage is now where we start to hand you back your time. Leverage is where we start to take some of these cornerstone pieces and we use them to be able to impact more than one person at once. We need to move into this phase of leverage so that we can achieve what we see in column 4, which is paid time off. So you're not consistently trading your time for money. Do you see how this strategy fits in? So step 1 is demand. Step 2 is leverage. And step 3 within your business is options. Having options in your business means that you've managed demand. You've incorporated leverage. And now you're, oh my goodness, demand, leverage, and options, they have to happen in that order. Now, we're almost done here, which is amazing news for me. So when we start to have leverage and when we start to create options within our business, what it means is for a clinic owner, now imagine you had all of those associates who were hitting those economic milestones. Imagine you had all these associates who were incorporating some type of signature care system, not trading their time for money. That's how we're going to start to get to the numbers on the screen. And we're going to have multiple opportunities in the next few days to get there. Now, one of the tools we made for you, thank goodness, so I don't have to keep talking about all of these pieces because my voice needs a bit of a break, is we made you a very cool custom GPT. And it is available on our dashboard. And it's an opportunity for you to assess how your practice is doing in each of these areas. I'm going to take us through what each of those areas are. Not right now, because I don't want to cough my way through it in Morse code, but we will get to it in our next talk. We're going to get to it at multiple times over the course of our few days together. But this gives you a sense, a benchmarking sense of how you're doing in terms of your methodology, how you are doing in terms of your marketing. It's not bringing me to tears, I promise. And how you're doing in terms of your capacity to add leverage into your business. So that GPT is available on your dashboard. It's going to prompt you as you go. It's going to let you know where you're going to have opportunities to work, and it's going to help you understand where you need to prioritize. And we're going to come back to this multiple times. You are not going to leave here on Monday without knowing exactly what projects within your intelligent practice you need to focus on. Now, we've spent a considerable amount of time starting to look at the marketing side of what's going on inside our intelligent practice. I want to put my water down, but it almost feels like a security blanket at this point that I'm going to keep it in my hand. And the marketing piece in particular, I want to discuss because the landscape is changing really quickly. We are going to have talks where we can discuss what's taking place in the realm of social media, how we can increase our follower count. But I also alluded to some key pieces in this introduction about SEO, about needing to be in a directory, about needing to be searchable in other ways that I think for many of you will feel a little bit foreign, will feel a little bit like, I don't actually know where to start with respect to that piece. And so that's the part that I want to introduce you to now. And this concept and this platform, which we have called Health Hives, is something that we actually started to build within the last 6 to 8 months, before the importance for these pieces was even fully known. The concept of Health Hives, and one of the problems that we wanted to solve in the creation of this platform, was we wanted to find a way where we were actually able to help control the flow of traffic to all of you. And I had tried 8 years ago to build an online directory, and we found it incredibly challenging. We found it incredibly challenging because you guys are busy. You were seeing patients. We needed you to fill in all of the stuff. It took forever. And eventually we decided it was actually just going to be too expensive to start to explore. There are some online health directories available, but not exclusively focused on integrative health, and not nearly as large as Health Hives is today. As of this conversation right now, we have nearly 50,000 profiles for integrative health practitioners on Health Hives. You have a capacity to automate your profile, to individualize it, to make sure it's in alignment with your branding. It pulls from data available in your Google profile. It makes you accessible to people who are looking for you locally, looking for your arena of expertise. And in the last week, we have started to send actual real people to your practices. I want to show you how this works. I want to show you behind the scenes, but clearly I am ill-equipped to continue to talk. So what I'm going to ask my team here, Pasha, if we're ready to go, I want to make sure he gets a really warm welcome. I want to bring my co-founder in the creation of Health Hives to the stage. That is Braden Urquhart, and I want to make sure that we play his sizzle reel as he comes in to join me.